Hey, what's up, guys? So, tonight I will be going over Chapter 3, which in Chapter 3, the overview is the 2-page business plan. So, what I'm going to do is come up with uh, go over basically my rough sketch of the the blueprint or the business plan that I would like to set up for the University of Louisville. But of course, the it's basically the topics for it or the questions, they apply to any business. But like I said, I decided to use the University of Louisville uh, as my pam or as my base, whatever you want to call it. I can't really think right now. I'm extremely tired, but or as my pamphlet or whatever it is. But uh, first off, to start is core values. Once you can establishing core values is very very important, because once you and your leadership team are able to establish your core values, that's when you're able to be that's the basically it becomes the your basis for the people that you have and the people that you bring into the school is all about everybody rowing in the same direction. So you want to make sure that the people you have are in the right people in the right seats. And by setting up your core values, that's what allows you to establish whether or not the people that you have represent those values. If they're going to be the right people for the ride. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that there's anything wrong with them. They could easily be very suitable and very fit very well into another school's plans or another business's values. It just means that what's trying to be accomplished here, they don't fit in with that, which it is what it is. Just like me, there are certain companies that have the they have their values wouldn't match up with mine. So even no matter how much I want a job, if I don't match up with their culture, then it's just not going to be a good fit. So there's no sense of wasting anybody's time. But what I chose for my core values was unity, self-empowerment, open-mindedness, and forward thinking. So what does that mean? The unity means everybody is together. Even if we don't agree on stuff, we still work together because we see the bigger picture. Self-empowerment. This goes along with it's very similar to open-mindedness, but it's more specific in the sense because open to stuff, that doesn't really mean anything. That just means if somebody has a different idea, you're willing to listen to it to some degree. Self-empowerment means that if somebody sees an issue, they don't just that basically if a student sees something wrong, or if they don't understand stuff, or if they feel belittled or put in a box, or uh any sort of like I guess they call it a microaggression towards you, or any sort of those little subtleties, is that something doesn't sit right with whatever the teacher is teaching you, that you feel not entitled, you feel empowered to express yourself without the fear of repercussions. So whether it's you getting a bad grade, or the teacher doesn't want to help you out, or any sort of stuff like that, or perhaps even somebody may feel comfort, like they may feel empowered themselves to go against you physically, which we definitely don't want that. And forward thinking, or well, I say open-mindedness in more specifics, is, basically open-mindedness has to do with being uncomfortable. So if you're like we have a lot of this played out to school, where it's like the school talks about diversity and does all this stuff with the LGBTQ, but there's the little subtleties, the read in between the lines type of stuff, is they don't really express that you can tell if you are black, or if you are a gay, lesbian, or anything that's not a white person, and more specifically not a white male, that you're to some degree walking on eggshells, that somebody's going to call you, like if you try to do stuff and be like, oh, they'll try to call you on like, oh, like angry black person, or slavery's over with, or making it about you, or basically any sort of like those little subtleties that people always want to nitpick at, that as soon as they see. And then it's like when you start talking about even stuff as small as as subtle as Black Lives Matter or things like that, there's white people that feel like, oh, what about me? Like, I don't matter. Like, no, you've had your fun for like this entire, go, like if you're a person that thinks that, if you're an all lives matter type of mindset, go into a situation, or go to a restaurant, go to an event, do this, do that, do whatever. Go to that event, go do something where you're the only white person. And I hope that makes you very, very uncomfortable. And just sit in that. Just bask. And maybe even go to some place where there's a lot of Latino people, a lot of people speaking a different language. Go there and try to just be in that area. Even just sitting there. And just be uncomfortable. Just be uncomfortable. Just bask in being uncomfortable. Just let it just stew in uncomfortability. Now, imagine and do it for maybe a couple hours, or however long the event is. Now, imagine having to do that for hours and hours and hours. That's what it's like. That's what it's like for everybody else that's not a white person, every single day. And then forward thinking, which means that we can't, especially with technology, we can't just be teaching kids for today. We need to be thinking, what's next? What sort of skills, what sort of knowledge is going to help people 5 to 10 years down the road? And a part of that, what I want to do, especially with such a high, if we're charging such a high cost for college, is allowing students to come back after they graduate, to come back and take classes over again, or perhaps take new classes. And of course, we don't want to shut out current students, but at the same time, if there's open seats, then I would like students to kind of rebrand their skills, bone up on their skills, and also it gives a chance of interaction. All of a sudden, if you have group projects, you're interacting with somebody that's already been through a bunch of stuff, and that you're gaining even more knowledge. So it's kind of like, that's how it's, in a sense, you're paying people to come back and teach, even though they may not be in that teacher role. They can still be in a position to teach fellow students, as well as learning more. And there's less of a disconnect. We shorten the gap between the disconnect between generations. Then the next one is passion. Passion is destroying white supremacy. That's what our passion is. Breaking down those barriers, taking that wall down that's been up for the last couple hundred years, 200-300 years, 400 years. And then our niche. Our niche would be the more what we do in the front office, as you could say, which is secondary and post-grad education. Just the basics. That's what we are. We're a college. That's our niche. And then the next is our 10-year plan. And now to have a good 10-year plan, it should kind of scare you. It should give you a little bit of chills. It should seem obtainable, but yet almost not so. And so what I picked was in the top 5 applied to school in the U.S. So basically, I want to put us on par with Ivy League schools in 10 years. And I don't think that's a crazy thought. Market strategy. Part of the market strategy is understanding and knowing what our target market is. Which is Black students that excel academically and that, are basically just open-minded, that are willing to learn. Now, people may call that pandering, but that's part of how we uplift the community, and specifically in Louisville, the West End. That's how I want to make us unique, is because I've been to a lot of college campuses. They don't do that. All of these top universities are almost, I would say more often than not, either in or right next to very impoverished areas. Like, what is that? How good are you really if you're not even teaching the people that are a stone's throw away? That's just ridiculous to me. And it's not necessarily Black people, but in this case, that's what's important of battling white supremacy. That needs to be your target market. And in this case, that also lines up with who tends to be impoverished in this country. But again, free-thinking students that are academically driven are open to, which I had mentioned. 3 uniques about our school. Uniques, which is don't box in students, like I said, labeling, the angry Black person, or that Black people's liberation are only within whatever makes white people comfortable. If it doesn't make white people comfortable, then you're not allowed to do that. We're not going to do that. We're unapologetic at this school. And invest in students more or before or just as much than sports. So if we're paying, like, that's a big problem for me. If we're paying a coach $5 million, we better be paying our top teachers $6 million, or at least $5 million. And then again, also promoting and supporting entrepreneurship. So creating a free market on campus so that students can sell goods and services between fellow students as a way to, get to bone up on your skills, to harness your skills, in like having a public market, between the where the humanities building and the library is. And what is it? Oh, and then our proven process, which is they use it for sales, but in this case, our sales would be students, and that would be the right fit process, which is not every student should be coming here. Plain and simple. Not every student, it's not in the best interest of every student. So it's basically going over and making sure, that the student understands what they're getting into, what they're investing in. And perhaps maybe a trade school or an HBCU or something like that, maybe a better start, at least. Not to say that they can't come there at all. And then again, like I was saying before, invest in the surrounding communities. And then our 3-year plan, which is I see as partnerships with Simmons College, which is the local HBCU, helping the JCPS increase high school graduations by 20%, increasing our own graduations of on-time graduations or early graduations by 10%. And then again, partnering the same the graduation goes in with partnering with JCPS, which is Jefferson County Public Schools. Increasing our tenure by 10%. So if we're, focused in on these core values, that means we're going to have an easier time finding who's in it for the long haul, because that's what's really going to make this run are the teachers. So if the teachers are in, we have teachers who invest, who show those core values, who invest in the students and really take pride in their job. I want to invest in them because, that 20 or 30 years or maybe perhaps even 40 years that they're at this school teaching, that's what's going to make this school. That's what's really going to put us, create a well-oiled machine, is if we don't have to continually worry about, changing, students, build students being able to build those bonds and grow with those, our teachers being integral parts of what our students build. That's priceless. That's priceless in growing our community and changing this world. That is building those relationships over decades is what's going to really propel us and give us that traction. That's really going to put us on the map. And then, like I said, I also mentioned before, allowing grads, and whether it's grad school, allowing them to take their grad classes, or if it's just a regular bachelor's, 4-year degree, allowing the students to come back and take classes. And another thing that I would like to start working on too is expanding internationally. So in the classroom, whether, I know we have study abroads, but I want to do it on a more day-to-day basis, and as well allow it for, allow for students who maybe they can't afford that trip to study abroad, or maybe they just want to dip their toes in on the international scale, on the international level in interactions. Well, that's where we work with international schools in cities, and we develop web classes so that we can start to develop, and in those improve internet infrastructure in those countries that if they don't have it. And then again that helps with a more inexpensive way to fuel cultural diffusion. And another one that I would like to work on, especially once we're able to get the rebuild the ground floor, the foundation going, and we get everything moving in the right direction, I would like to offer a 10-year tuition guarantee. What does that mean? That means that I want to guarantee that the skills, so much guarantee that the skills you have will make you successful, that in the next 10 years, if you do not pay off your student loans, that the university will pay them the remaining balance for you, so that you're not, and so in that case, for most students, that would be roughly in your early to mid 30s of assistance with becoming debt free, which that's really important, because your 30s, your 20s is when you lay the foundation. Your 30s was when is generally speaking for most people when that's when your highest earning potential. That's when you really start to grow, and that's when a lot of people like to usually get married, or buy the house and buy their family house, start investing in their kids' college, all that kind of stuff. So we want to help to remove that burden, so they're not in their 40s and 50s still having, or in their 40s, having to put their life on hold, or perhaps even in their late 30s having to put their life on hold just to try to pay off all this stuff. And then a 1-year plan. 1-year plan, again, goes in with setting up a two and 2 year program with Simmons College, offering a high school or classes to high school seniors. Again, that plays into the 3-year plan and how we plan on getting more people to apply. That's the idea. Is there when you break it down on a smaller and smaller scale, there should be a flow that allows you to build up to those bigger goals. And then, like I said, when you're playing, getting rid of the wrong people, and then balancing the athletic budget or make it profitable, making sure, basically, going over budgets and making sure that our dollars are being spent the right way to begin with before we just see how much money we really need. And then continue yes, and then continue students, what is it? Continue doing like surveys and stuff with the students, to make sure that their schooling or that their classes are being done properly. Having surveys every day to make sure that so teachers can much quicker, quicker update their or change what they're doing to be more productive with their students, so their students are learning more. And then quarters, which are called rocks, so your 90-day goals, or like I said, set up the 2-day surveys, set up 2 days, or set up surveys, have our leadership team reading Traction and Black Money by Dr. Boyce Watkins, getting some value-oriented speakers, and yeah, that's it. Basically, the 90 days is just overview and making sure that everything is in the right place before we start to really get things rolling. So I hope that was helpful and insightful, and I hope also that you're enjoying this book as much as I am.